In this episode, we find out how to make champions. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? My name is Michael Sahno, and welcome to the Sea and Land Fitness Podcast. Now, this podcast is, of course, brought to you by Sea and Land Fitness. Head on over to www.sandlfit, that's sandlfit.com, and pick up some merchandise over there. We've got a ton of stuff. But that's not the most important thing that we've got for you this week. What we've got for you is Central Florida's winningest high school softball coach, Coach TJ Goelz. Coach, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
No, I'm it's an honor. It's an honor to have you here. I just interviewed your daughter, Avery, and it's funny, because I came to know you through YouTube while I was doing research for her. There's a video about her high school journey and getting picked up. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. I'm just kind of been a sports guy since I can remember. As long as going back to being a young kid and just grew up playing all the sports, loved it, loved the strategy behind it, and I played baseball in college, and then I finished up, wound up getting a degree in finance, and I have been a wealth manager now for 25 years. So I've been coaching people on how to build their wealth and keep their wealth and distribute their wealth properly. And but in addition to that, I met my beautiful wife in college, and I played baseball. She played softball, and I fell in love with that sport. And just basically to me, fast pitch softball is like baseball on steroids. Just the game is so fast and played so passionately, and so I loved the game. Long time ago, we wound up having two girls. They got into all the different sports, but then they naturally gravitated to what mom and dad played, and then I got into coaching. Gosh, now it's probably 18, 19 years ago, and just kind of did it as the normal stuff, local rec leagues to begin with, but the whole mission was to try to make a great experience for my kids as well as anybody that we coached, and we realized that we could actually do it at a pretty high level across the country, and then wound up doing for high school as well. So,
well, yeah, I mean, you've coached two really amazing softball players in their own right, Avery and Kinsey, who both played together at the University of Florida. I mean, you've got to be gushing. It's almost like a dream come true, so to speak. So your background, you played baseball in college. What position did you play?
I was a left-handed pitcher in college. I was a lefty first baseman pitcher in high school. But when I got to college, I solely pitched, and I played at University of North Florida, for a legendary coach, Hall of Fame coach, Dusty Rhodes, that was there for a long time. And he's an old school, baseball guy, and I get a lot of my, X's and O's came from old Coach Rhodes. So I do it a little bit differently than he did, but the X's and O's and how to prepare and all those things. That's where I learned it all, and just again, that to me is the fun part, is the preparation, the strategy, the helping, the grind, and getting ready to prepare to try to win a championship. So.
Now, did your experience going from high school into playing college, did that help you with, because you're in a baseball, softball, well, you're actually in a sports mecca. Where you guys? I mean, IMG is right near you guys. My brother, he lives in Clearwater, and
That's
my
it.
nephew plays baseball. And he's consistently talking about the level of talent in that area.
Hmm.
So, did your transition from going to high school into college help you with sort of, developing not only your kids but the kids on the baseball or on the softball team, um, as they were trying to journey take their own journey through softball while also seeing the successes around them?
Yeah, no question. I mean, that we're Florida's been a hotbed for baseball, as long as you can remember. And but I'll tell you, when I first got into fast pitch softball, I was told, many 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 times that there's the B, softball doesn't have any. I mean, Florida doesn't have any A softball players. They have B softball players. They, California, Arizona, that's where all the A players were. And I remember hearing that in 2006, and I said, that makes no sense to me. We have as much sun, if not more, than they do. And so we obviously have the same population type and this and that. So you know what it must come back down to? It must come back down to coaching, right? And so, I said,
We
well, we're
have
going to
all
change
the
that.
spring training. We have all of the spring training for Major League Baseball practically. But go on, I'm sorry. It's
No,
just
you're right.
shocking to hear you say that. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I remember, like tournament directors and, the sanctioning bodies. I mean, I remember one telling me right that, and I just said, well, that's about to change. We're gonna put out, top quality A level ball players that will have choices, and that was my whole thing. Is I just always wanted to do everything we can to help the young ladies so that they'd have choices. Where if they want to play at the highest level, go play at the highest level. You want to play mid level, mid level. You want to go to academic, go academic. Whatever it is, but we just aim to try to give them choices, and then also have a really great experience along the way. And to me, and my wife, and she coached with me as well. And it's just what better way to have a great experience, but chasing a championship together as a team. And we had a good time doing that. So
You chased it together as a family. It's just
right.
insane. So did what? So one of the things I watched this video. It was a couple of part series. I don't know if you saw it. It was on the UF softball team, and it followed the coach and the players from a couple of years ago. And one of the things that he also came from college baseball, and one of the things that he said was he just treated softball practice like it was baseball practice because the fundamentals were mirrored. They were exactly the same. Is that the approach that you took, or did you try to change anything a little bit, or did you
No,
see that you had to change anything a little bit?
yeah, I mean, just the delivery. I mean, it's a different delivery. I remember hearing a long, long time ago, Mike Kendrea, Hall of Fame coach from Arizona. I believe he's the one who coined this, but he said, boys have to play good to feel good, and girls have to feel good to play good. So I remember hearing that a long, long time ago, and it's so true, right? I mean, I was that guy. I could feel terrible, right? But then I'd get out there and pitch my best game or whatever it was. But girls, if they don't feel right, or if their friends are upset with them or this and that, they're not going to play well. It's just how
Oh,
it
all
is.
right.
And so you gotta really make sure you deliver in a way that doesn't mean that you got to be soft, and it doesn't mean that you can't push them, but you have to deliver in a way to try to get them feeling their best, right? Because if you want to get anything out of them, you've got to make them feel like they're better than they are all the time, and that's what we always tried to do. I just always remembered that because again, I mean, when I played, I had a tough coach. He would come down on me and you didn't do your job. He told you to get the what off the mound and this that and learn how to pitch. I never did that with girls. We'd kind of say, hey, today's not your day. We'll get some work in tomorrow. You'll be right back out here, dominating. It's just different. So I think you have to know that delivery, and then it works out.
So you were not the dad in Bad News Bears. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Correct. Good analogy. Good analogy. Not
Yes.
Buttermaker. So.
No, not at all. So that ties into the next question that I have is how do you mentally prepare softball players for a game or for practice? Are they two different animals to you? Um, I come from the military, so you fight like you train. But I understand, having gone to the University of Florida, I got a master's in a sports science, so I understand that's not always, that may be the old way of thinking
Mhm.
in some cases, but it may be relevant with softball.
Yeah, I think that, we always practiced way harder and way faster than the game ever was. And that was by design. We always wanted to slow the game down so that when it was the biggest, the most intense moments, right, they've already been through it in practice. They knew that there was a inner competition that we did in practice, and, the losing squad was going to have to, run a lot, run poles, whatever the case may be, just something to, or clean up the field, put everything away, whatever the case is that, and those, they took it serious, right? So they're, and we'd increase the noise and, turn up the radio and make everything loud. And, our practices were 2 to 2.5 hours of intent, getting after it, playing faster than you ever had to. Even the reps were fast by design and this and that. So then when you got to the game, everything would kind of slow down. And the same thing preparation wise is practice, we're going to push you harder. We're going to give you feedback that, we're not going to probably say on game day. Again, on game day, it's let's bring out their best, right? Let's look at them, look them in the eyes, see where they are that day, and then find out how do we got to bring out their best, right? Today's the final exam. Everything else, let's bring out their best. Let's see how we do. And that, we did a really good job of having players just, I think, play way above their level, and it was fun to watch. That to me, it was the best part, was watching kids just tear it up in the state tournament that had an average season, and all of a sudden when we needed them most, they came through. That was really fun.
Creating little Ortizes, that's what you're doing.
Right. Exactly right.
But how does, so that brings up something interesting. Okay, so my dad was my little league coach, and you coached, both of your daughters. I imagine it's easy to have a disconnect when it's not your kid, but when it is your kid, how do you balance that? Some parents, they'll be harsher on their kid just to prove to them and everyone else on the team that he's not playing favorites. Some will go the opposite way. How did you balance it?
Yeah, no, it was planned. It was something that we really thought about, because I remember the expression "daddy ball," and I hated that expression. And although I know where it came from and I saw it, firsthand, and how that worked. Kid, wasn't one of the best players on the team, yet she's batting third, playing shortstop or pitching, whatever it was, and you knew that the only reason that was happening is because the dad was her coach. Well, my kids knew that they were gonna, if anybody ever walked up to the field, nobody was gonna know who my kid was, right? If they watched us for 2 hours for a week, they just weren't gonna know who my kid was. Now, afterwards, I gave them all the time in the world and feedback, and I probably was in practice a little bit harder on them, and also used them sometimes as examples of things that I wanted to get across to the team, and then I would tell them later. And again, I was very honest with them, saying, I really wasn't that mad at you, or, I know that you didn't do that, but I didn't want this other kid, she needs to hear, what was said, but I didn't want her to crumble in that particular case, whatever it was. And I know that, you're strong enough to take it, and all those things. So, I was just very open and honest with them, telling them that, being coach's daughter, there's a special role to that. There's a lot of really cool perks, right? Because all the extra work and reps and, conversations we could have. But there's also, some negatives to it too. And we just told them that you got to take the good with the bad. There's definitely more good than bad. And being honest with them, I think, helped.
No, and it shows. It absolutely shows. At least in my conversation with Avery, she's just, she loves the sport. It didn't, your coaching style and your attention and your style of attention didn't diminish her product at all. So,
Thank you. Appreciate
good
that.
job. Way to go, Dad.
Thank you.
All right, now one of the things that I wanted to cover was, now that we know what you expect on the field, what type of work ethic you're looking for in practice. How how did you choose your roster? How did you choose your positions? What did you look for in specific players? And how did you use that to create a successful team that went on to win championships?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we pretty quickly got to a high level, and I think anybody that was coming to try out with us or play for us, whether it was travel ball or high school, they knew that they already had to have talent. You know what I mean? It's just that was kind of a given. So then what we were looking for is like, right, the tangibles are the talent, run, who can hit for power, all that stuff, right? But the intangibles, right? Who's that kid that just works like crazy in practice, right? And I mean, and we've had those kids along the way that have been like the glue of the team, the personality of the team, the ones that just give you everything. They may not even be as talented, but their intangible skills are off the charts, right? Just a great teammates, just great coachable players, respectful, work really hard, put in the extra time. You tell them, to here's something you should work on between now and the next practice. They did it tenfold and extra. I mean, they just knew that. So, those are the kind of kids that we were looking for, and we passed on some really talented kids quite a few times, just because they weren't a fit. With it was all about them, and parents were all about them and their path and their ride, and I get that, most of them, I'm sure it worked out for in some cases. They didn't get to play at the level we did, or they didn't get to do some of the cool things that we did, where we went and where we got to play, who we got to play against and stuff like that. But I'm sure it worked out for them. But we always looked at it as the team as a whole, and we wanted people that wanted to be a part of a team and trust the process. And what we always said was, if we do this the right way, and we teach these girls the game and how to play the game the right way, and they're going to obviously definitely already have some talent, we'll help them get better. But if we do all those things right, then we're going to be on the right fields at the right time, in front of the right coaches, playing against the right teams. And the recruiting really took care of itself. I wasn't one of those guys. I didn't have to make hundreds of phone calls to get our kids recruited. They just always were like, oh, there's Tampa Mustangs TJ again at the end of the tournament playing in the finals. We must have a good team. Well, word spreads, this and that. Oh, there they are again. Oh, there they are again. And next thing you know, I mean, all of our kids are going D1, and not that D1's the only thing, but most of them went D1 and got scholarships and got a chance to play at a pretty high level and have a good time. So I think that's what we focused on. We looked for those kind of kids as opposed to just a bunch of individuals. I mean, to me, softball's a team sport. I don't really understand the whole AU thing, and I don't know if you watch that at all. The Athletes Unlimited.
I've seen parts of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's such special ball players and special talents that are out there, and I don't understand why they're trying to make softball into an individual sport where you keep track of points, and I just doesn't make sense to me. This is a great team sport, and it should be built that way. And then what happens later on? I just had a conversation with Kinsey 2 nights ago. She's telling me about, she's got a big girl job now, and she's working in corporate America, and she was telling me about a situation, and I asked her, so what does that remind you of? And she kind of stopped for a while, and she just looked at me like, it's like, and she kind of remembered this situation that happened on one of the teams she played on, right? And it was I said, yeah, I said, those lessons, right? Learning how to be a good teammate, learning when to step in, learning when not to step in, learning when to get somebody's back, learning when to hold somebody accountable. There's so many great things that come from playing in a team sport, and it was really kind of cool to see that applied to her afterlife. So.
That's awesome. Now, these things that were your primary reasons for decisions for not taking an athlete, were these things ever communicated to the family or to the athlete themselves in a positive way, of course, but so that maybe that they could see it as something that they could work on, so that they could maybe make a goal to work on that and maybe come next year?
Yeah, I think. I think with some of them we were able to do that. If ones that we thought that it was more of kids that were close talent and ability wise, but we weren't going to be the best fit just because we weren't going to be able to get them the reps, and they were three on the depth chart or whatever the case may be. I'd just be like, nah, you'd be better off going somewhere, getting more reps, one or two, and if you want to come back, you might get locked into that team. We get it, but I want to do what's best for you first, and I don't want you to just toil here, and it might be tough for you to get those reps here. So go do that if you want to come back. That's great. The kids that were maybe
I understand there are probably some behavior kids that and this is not to be mean to you kids, sorry, but there are some you go, I don't know about this.
Yeah,
I
no,
get that.
100%. I mean, it's not worth it, and yeah, I remember we had tryouts one time for a kid, and right at the tryouts ended, and the my players on the existing team came up to me and said, Coach TJ, you're not going to take her, are you? and,
Oh man.
and I was just like, no, guys. I said I saw everything you saw, and then I don't even want to know what I didn't see because it was stuff that happened in the dugout or that was said or this and that. So I said no, it's not, just not a fit. We'll keep doing our thing and we'll wish her well.
So that's one stressor. Another stressor that I imagine, and I want to kind of explore is, so Avery was scouted when she was, do I have this right? She was scouted when she was 14.
She was first identified at 12, actually, and
Jeez.
this is going back, before they changed the rules. They were out there, starting to make their lists, 12, 13, 14, and so that's when she was kind of first identified, and then it broadened, and by the time she was 14, she was getting offers, And again, that's the one thing I'm glad the rule changed. I wish it would have changed a little sooner. I think it would have been better because I had that whole 2020 class, that whole crop that was still playing under those rules. That I do think that waiting until you're a junior before you have to make a decision is so much better than eighth, ninth grade. So I mean, she didn't even she didn't have one game in high school. She didn't have one at bat in high school, and she was already committed to the University of Florida. And oh well, coach, well, why didn't you wait? You really can't. I mean, if you went
No,
through
I
it,
get that.
you would know. I mean, yeah, we could have waited, and the scholarship could have gone to somebody else, and maybe if she was good enough, they would have figured out a way to get her money later, and this and that. But at the time, everything seemed right, and you're just going, yeah, I think this is a good fit. She was head over heels. It was the top program in the country, one of the top academic schools in the country. So let's just go ahead and lock it down at that point. But I am glad that they changed the rule.
So what does that do though? So let's say she gets an offer. All right. 14 years old, it's the fall, okay? She gets an offer. I don't know what the time frame would be, but she gets an offer in the fall. Spring comes around and she starts having a crappy season. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of pressure does that put on her? How does she deal with it? I'm saying not just Avery, but any of your athletes. What kind of pressure does that put on you? You know what I mean?
So, yeah, no question. So I mean, we coach them up on that a lot. I mean, so really what happens is they got their offers, and you don't really sign though until you're a senior, right? But you can at that point you could commit at any point, so you become committed, and once we really coached our kids up on is that we weren't it wasn't the only goal to get you committed to go play college. The whole goal every day is just get better. How are we going to get better? And if you're one of those players who thinks once you commit that you can now coast, number one, you're not going to fit on our team, and number two, your college coach, they don't sign you until you're a senior. They could move on. It's a verbal commitment up until that point. And we used to tell them, don't give them that reason, right? Just keep getting better every single day because while they liked you as a 14-year-old, they're still projecting you as what you're going to be as an 18-year-old. And if you don't live up to that and you don't look like that coming into college, number one, you're either going to lose your offer, or number two, you're going to get there and you're going to be gone in a year. So, we just really coached them up on it, very honest with them, kept pushing them. And anybody who wanted to coast or, take it easy, didn't want to travel, didn't want to play the best competition, we just said that, we're not the right fit for you. It's time for you to, play somewhere else. So
Got it. Now, along those same lines, how do you help your athletes deal with successes in games? You know what I mean? Not let it go get into their head. And how do you deal with their failures? How do you help them deal with their failures? And I guess what I'm trying to ask is, let's say it's along the same lines. You're riding that high of that success, and you go in and you play a team that you know is not on par with you, but you lose to them.
Mm-hmm.
How do you pick them up and get them to continue in a championship type of fashion? How do you keep them champions, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, as you were saying that, different games and different scenarios were coming into my head. Like, and each one of them, are at different times and different. I could tell you stories on all of them, which make me smile because they're great memories. But I think in general, again, I mean, we just, we coached them. I mean, we really would talk to them, and I mean, the parents that were involved in our organization, I was probably famous for my post game conversations. To me, it was the best opportunity to really to talk about the game. What can we learn? What can we get better at? Right? Celebrate some of the good things, and then get prepared for the next one. And we used to say, as they say all the time, you're going to learn so much more from your losses and your failures than your wins. And so, that to me is opportunity, right? And I used to say, hey, we just created an opportunity for ourselves to get a heck of a lot better, right? Yeah, I would have much rather won, and we didn't play our best. And I said, but let's go see next time what happens when we play our best. Let's see what we can do when we play our best. Does anybody here think we played our best? And everybody shake their head no. It's okay. Right? Well, if we played our best and we got beat, then I'm going to be concerned. But I don't believe we played our best. I don't believe we coached our best. So I'm going to say that when we come back and we give them our best, we're going to have a really good chance. And I think that kind of, gets everybody like motivated to come back and say, yeah, you're right. We can do that. We can definitely play better. And we took ownership of it as well with them. So we were all trying to say, let's get better together. And then you just bring them back around. And, there's the game as a sport is a game of failure, I mean, so, we talked to them about that too. We weren't, I tell you, don't chase a batting average. Don't chase a hit or a double or this and that. Chase the process. Did you have a good at bat? Did you hit the ball hard? Right? Were you in the right spot? Were you a great teammate today? All the things that you can control, right? All the reps and everything else that we do on a daily basis. You're a talented kid. They're going to come out, right? But if you try to beat yourself up and, you could hit 6 line drives in a row at somebody and be 0 for 6. Now, do you think you're in a slump? Right? Yeah, most kids would. They'd be like, I'm 0 for 6, Coach Each. And I go back and say, you hit 6 line drives. You're crushing the ball. Don't change a thing, right? The next 3 duck farts are going to fall in, right? Now you're 3 for 9, and you didn't hit the ball well, and you're hitting 333, and then you're going to go back to hitting line drives, gap shots, and this and that. I mean, that's kind of how the game works. So, again, I think that we made sure that we took time, to sit down and have great conversations with the players and, get in their heads. And if somebody was showing any kind of, mental situation going on that was bothering them, we would talk to them about it, right? We just didn't like let them go home and they'll work it out. We'd say, hey, I know what you're thinking right now. I know what you're feeling. And if I don't, I'd love for you to tell me, because that's what we're here for. We want to help you get better. We want to help you get past this. And, and again, I mean, as we're sitting here talking, Michael, I mean, that's the stuff that I miss the most, not coaching on a day-to-day basis right now. I mean, those are the things where you could just light a kid up and bring her back, to where she needs to be. I mean, that's as good as any W any day. So
No, definitely. And as I'm looking at it from a sports psychology perspective, it removes it puts responsibility onto the player, but puts it onto the player themselves in a way that makes them want to work hard. It creates a goal, and it almost removes the need for any type of punitive, action. Coaches, not all coaches, but some coaches, if you don't do what you're supposed to, they move into a punitive type of mindset where you're going to work, you're going to pay for this, you're going to pay for that loss. And it's just wonderful to see that it's such a professional way. It's such a professional approach. Way to go.
I appreciate that.
No, it's phenomenal.
Well, I think one of the questions that you had asked, or me to look at, was how do you build it? And I have to say this, I mean, I wasn't a one man shop. The first thing I did was made sure that I found some really good, quality, loyal people that were ready to do this together, right? And have a joint mission. Check the ego at the door, right? Trust me 100% in that. Here's clear as day. Here's our mission. This is what we want to do. And if I go off track, you hold me accountable. But I'm probably not going to go off track. We want these kids to get better every day and have a great experience. And if we just keep focusing on that, the college recruitments are going to take care of themselves. The national championships, the state championships are going to take care of themselves. And so I was really fortunate. I had some great coaches that were just great people, and they were loyal, and they kept the same message going through consistently. Different styles, but they kept the same message that you were just talking about go through.
That's awesome. That's wonderful. Now, you brought something up which I had read in an article and we texted back and forth about. You're not coaching right now. And what happened? I understand you ran into some time constraints while you were doing the planning for the last season. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I mean, I coached all the way up while the girls were still playing. Then even when they were done, I just loved it, and my wife and I kept doing it. And we kept doing travel ball, we kept doing high school ball, even after both girls were in college. And I look at it now and just go, how do we do it? I mean, it was kind of miraculous. I mean, we always would try to get the college schedules as early as we could, and then figure out how we could tie that to the high school schedule and the travel ball schedule. So we were trying to be everywhere to for everything, and manage a business, and be fathers, and then be husbands and wives and all that stuff. So when last year was Kinsey's senior year, it was Avery's junior year. We just started looking at the schedule, and it was just different than it had been. I think COVID kind of softened things up, made it a little bit easier from big travel standpoint. The Gators didn't travel as much as they had before COVID. And but last year, they were back to going to California. Then the SEC tournament was in different places. They had all these different trips, and I can't do something, 3/4 or 80% or 85%.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't do that to the girls, and it's just not how I operate. So I just looked at it and said, you know what, we've earned this. We've been doing this for 17 years. Let's go ahead and step back and spend the last 2 years making sure we don't miss an inning. We haven't missed an inning of college ball, and we see them everywhere. They play, and we just go out there and just said, let's step away. And so like I said, I think I told you, it's a sabbatical. Is it permanent? I think right now I love the sport too much. I think right now it's a bit of a sabbatical, and I get asked all the time about different opportunities, and I will also say that I'm waiting for the right opportunity. If something really interesting came along, then I'll probably be back a little bit sooner. But right now I'm very content to watch Avery's senior year at University of Florida and get through all of that, and then we'll see what happens. So
All right, perfect. Let's wrap this up with one more question.
yeah.
And from what you had said before, this is not going to be an easy one. What is your most memorable and impactful moment coaching, playing sports? And it doesn't necessarily have to be your biggest moment. It could be, and it could be more than one. I realize you have 2 daughters. So,
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I know Avery told you about being there for when we won the national championship, and I mean it's just hard to the story behind that, Michael, is there's so much more to it, and I don't know if you have enough time for it, to be honest with you.
Please, no, we've got time.
So in 2013, it was the first time that we took this team, Kinsey's team, to a national tournament, and the ASA National Championship in Illinois, and we made it to the national championship game. We lost in the final 2-1.
Oh.
And so that's 2013, right? 2014, we move up from 14U to 16U, and we go to the national championship. This time it's held in Virginia, and we make it to the national championship game, and we lose 4-3. And to a second year six. I mean, they, not making excuses, but they were better. They were a little better than us. But just to get to the national championship game twice in 2 years in a row and lose, right? So then, now we were taking the step of going out to California, where the that's the top level. It's PGF, and now we got an invite. We were going out. This is a big deal. This is where all the best teams play at that point. So it's 2015, and we go out and we lose the first bracket game 1-0. So not only did we just go into the losers bracket, the way that the bracket worked, it was all by draw, blind draw, where you get slotted in. But the way the bracket worked that year is we actually had to go into a play-in game to get into the losers bracket. I mean, it was the worst, crappiest draw you could possibly imagine. By losing that game 1-0, and I remember we lost the game 1-0. We left 13 runners on base. We outplayed them left and right. We just couldn't score a run. It was crazy. So I remember going back to the hotel, and we were, like, I can't believe this. We're going to go to a barbecue. We're spent all this money to go to California and this and that. And my wife, we were sitting there, we were talking, and then she found this song, and it was by a Christian rapper. His name's Andy Mineo. It's called "You Can't Stop Me," and I think it had just come out or whatever it was. But she's like, "Here's our rallying cry," whatever it was. And I said, all right, that was Tuesday. I said, we got to come back and play now that night, Tuesday, to win, just to get. No, I'm sorry, we had to play at 5 o'clock, and then we had to play at 7 o'clock just to get to Wednesday.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
so I said, let's just try to get to Wednesday. Well, we come back, and the girls light it up. I mean, just crushing the ball, like run rule, like we didn't even have to do anything. It was a whole new team. All right, so great. So we made it to Wednesday. Well, Wednesday we had to win 3 games to get to Thursday. We win 3 games, get through, and again in dominant fashion. Thursday we have to win 3 more games to get to Friday. Because again, now you're in the losers bracket, right? And so it's the longest route. Well, we do that, and they started getting a little bit better. I think we had 1 dominant, and then there were like 1-run games at this and that. So now we make it to Friday, and Friday now we're in like the final 8, and if we win like the first 2 games, then there's 4 now, right? So now all this through, I don't know if you've been adding it up, but I'll tell you the number in a second. So we have to win 4 on Friday, and win 2. Then we play a team. Then we had to beat that team again because they would have been undefeated basically in the final 4. We had to beat a team twice, and we do it, and we beat them both by 1 run. Both games went extra innings, 9 innings, right? So again, just you think about the highs and lows and the emotions, and bringing everything out of the tank. It was crazy. So we make it to the national championship game after winning 11 games in a row from the losers bracket.
Over 4 days, 5 days.
Over 5 days against the best teams in the country, right? I mean, I'm talking all the big names all across the country, and we make it to the national championship game that's now on TV again for the 3rd year in a row, right? And it's on TV, and we sit there, and I think Avery kind of talked about how tight game, 0-0. We played, the kid that was pitching in that game went on to pitch for University of Michigan, Megan Bobian, super pitcher, and a lot of big names in that game. And Kinsey winds up getting a 2-out hit with a runner on third in the 6th inning, and then so we're up 1-0. Wow. We don't do anything in the top of the 7th. They come up in the bottom of the 7th, and they get the leadoff kid on. We switch pitchers. Another kid comes in. They bunt, move that kid to second. So it's 1-0, runner on second. Next kid up hits a dying ball, and I can remember it. I saw my center fielder get a bad jump on it, and I'm like, oh crap! I thought she was gonna catch, but it's falling. Oh, they're gonna tie it. Oh wait, the runner on second thought she was gonna catch it too, so she didn't go. Right, so they wind up getting second and third, 1 out, and national championships on the line, bottom of the 7th. So I call timeout. And I could see my whole team, everybody's rattling. I called, walk out to the mound, total acting, like I'm inside, hearts pounding, this and that. And I just walked out to him very seriously, and I said, all right, look, we've come too far, to let anything stop us now. We're going to get a strikeout and a pop-up, and we're going to win the national championship. Everybody good with that? And I looked at them all in the eyes, and they all went, You know, like give me one of those, right? So I walk back real confidently, and I'm like, like inside, I'm just jelly, right? We come back to the dugout, and we get a strikeout and a pop up to left field, and we win the national championship after winning 12 games in a row from the losers bracket. So that's going to always be a tough one to overcome. Even though, I think like when we won states in high school, the first time in 2021 after I lost Avery and all those, our 2020 team was the best high school softball team in the country by far. People talk about it all the time that we lost it to COVID, and then to be able to come back and retool and win a state championship, I thought that's another special moment as well. But going back to that PGF national championship, 12 games from the losers bracket, which will probably never be broken because you'd had to have the bad luck to get into the play-in game to begin with. So that was incredibly special. The fact that Kinsey got the game-winning hit, that was the cherry on top, if that. I mean, it was just already incredibly special. And then on top of it, the last thing I'll tell you, Michael, is when we first went to Illinois, and I said, "Hey, girls, we're playing a national championship." I didn't really know how good we were in the national scale. I had no idea, but I told them just a little added fun incentive. Again, get girls feeling good. I said, "Look, if you guys win a national championship, I'll take the team. I'll take all of you. We'll go on a cruise to celebrate." And they're like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." So in 2013 they lost.
Crap.
It was 2014. So at the ceremony in 2015, Kinsey like yells on the microphone when they were like, "We're going on a cruise," and sure enough, that December, I took the whole team and the parents, took care of themselves, but we like 45 of us went on a 3-day cruise to the Bahamas. I mean, just what a lifetime memory, I mean, something that hopefully we'll celebrate again in 10 years, or in 2 years in 2025. So should be pretty cool.
That's a phenomenal story. Wow!
Thank you.
Holy cow!
So cool. So amazing.
Coach Goelz, this has been amazing. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me. It's always fun to talk softball and talk about great people that are trying to do great things to help them out. I mean, I think that's awesome what you guys are doing, and if I can ever be of any help, just let me know.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that is it, Coach Goelz. And that is it for me as well. Thank you so much for watching the show, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Take care.